All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Aaliyah Bunch. I'm the Director of MBE Services here at Eastern Minority Supply Development Council. I want to thank everyone that took the time to join us today for this quarter's Secure the Bag series where we talk about alternative funding options for your small diverse business. So I wanted to just let everyone know exactly about Secure the Bag. We pretty much bring in a lot of our resource partners throughout the region to talk about some of the resources that they offer that you guys may be overlooking to support some of the developmental needs, technical assistance needs, or funding needs of your business. So this quarter, will also to let everyone know, if you're new to our organization, please reach out to me, Aaliyah Bunch. I'll be happy to talk with you about some of your business development needs. Make sure that you're leveraging your certification and taking advantage of your relationship with our network. So today we have our guest for this month is WEDnetPA. It's a workforce and economic development network of Pennsylvania, is which WEDnet stands for. They bring training funds to qualified companies across the Commonwealth through a network of community colleges, state systems, universities, and other educational institutions. So I'm so happy today to have Mr. Jay Vincent and Reggie Overton from Community College of Philadelphia, Mr. Jay Vincent. Mr. Reggie Overton will be able to tell you a little bit more about the area that he services. But this program is pretty much for businesses that are located in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to turn it over to our speakers so they can tell you a little bit more about the criteria, the process, and some important things that will help you be successful in applying for this funding. If you have any questions, feel free to utilize our chat or our Q&A feature. We will be reserving some space at the end of the presentation so that we can go over a few questions. Also, just to make sure that everyone knows about our upcoming ROAR conference, if you're a certified member, you want to make sure you check out our website just so you have information on how to register for our ROAR conference. This is our first in-person conference since the pandemic. We're really excited about all of the developmental programming, all of our corporations that are going to be attending, and all of the information that we've been putting together through our programming. So without further ado, and again, I'll also put my information in the chat just in case you do not have it, but I'm Aaliyah Bunch of EMSDC, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Jay Vincent. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Jay Vincent, and I'm the Manager of Business Development here at the Community College of Philadelphia. And I handle the WEDnetPA program for the college. As Aaliyah stated earlier, this program is offered through the community colleges within your area. So I will not have any specific answers for anybody in particular. Your answers will come from whoever your partner is. I handle the Philadelphia area. And so if you are located in the Philadelphia area, you will be dealing with me. I will be helping you go through the program. When you apply, it will tell you, you will see a list of colleges, and then you pick the one in your area to be your partner. Anyway, this program is a program where the state offers grant money. It's not a loan. It's a grant money to companies that are located in Pennsylvania to help train their employees. Now, you probably wonder, why would the state give money to companies to help train their employees? A well-trained workforce can be very productive, which will help the local community, the region, and the state as a whole. So this is why the state is providing training funds to companies. You have to be, your company has to be located in Pennsylvania. And your employees have to be Pennsylvania residents. They have to be full-time employees, making, I think it's 150% of
Minimum wage.
minimum wage. The program is 3 out of 5 years, which means you can apply 3 years in a row, or you can apply a year, take a break, another year, take a break, another year, take a break, but you cannot apply more than 5 times within.
Jay, actually, it's only 2 years in a row, one
And
off,
one.
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5, 2 in a
Right.
row, and then
One off, right?
one out of 5. Okay. So, and a company can get up to $100,000 a year, but an employee can only spend $2,000. So, a simple example: if you have 10 employees,
Mhm.
you're not going to get $100,000.
Right.
The maximum you'll get is $20,000, because every employee is entitled to a maximum of $2,000 a year.
On that note, Jay, we
Mhm.
should probably be clear, but the training plan, you're not going to just get $100,000. Part of this process, and we'll get into that, is that you have to complete a training plan, and that's going to be the governing document in terms of how much we can possibly award you if it's available.
Exactly. When you complete a training plan, I was going to get into that. There are 3 options when it comes to training.
Mhm.
You can train with your partner.
Mhm.
You can train with a third party. That is, you find an outsider that will do the training for you. Or you can do an in-house training. That is, you can have a subject matter expert within your organization that's going to do the training. Now, when you train with a partner, the invoicing is different. In fact, the invoicing is different, when it comes to all 3 different training providers. If you have an in-house person doing the training, the invoice details section is different from the invoice details section if you have a third party doing the training. And it's also different if you have a partner doing the training.
Yes.
Usually, the state will say 30 days after you train, or after the last day of training, you need to do the invoicing. But again, that would depend on what your partner requires. The partner might say, okay, well, I'll give you another 5 or 10 days, but the state wants invoicing done 30 days after training is done. Now, the training has to be something that has to do with the company, something that has to do with the development of your employees. It can be, let's say, for example, you want to do leadership training. You can train somebody in leadership that you are expecting to get promoted into a leadership position. They don't have to be a leader at that particular time. Okay, it can be something that you're planning on doing, so you train this employee. Now, the problem here is that it's very difficult to say who qualifies or who doesn't qualify, because there are times when your partner can write a letter to the state to get an exception based on so many factors. For example, your turnover rate, according to the state, should not be more than 25%. So let's say if you have a 30% turnover rate, your partner can write a letter. You can write a letter to your partner, and then your partner can write a letter to the state and say, because of these reasons, I'm asking for an exception for this company to participate in this program this particular year. And then, of course, you have to give reasons why you have a higher turnover rate, and then come up with a plan,
Mhm.
to make that rate a little bit better. Do you want to take over, Reggie? Is there anything
Sure.
else?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Reggie Overton, and I'm with the Community College of Allegheny County. And I primarily cover companies and work with companies in Allegheny County and Washington County. I believe we sent out a link earlier this month for you to kind of get a view or get a better feeling of all the resources on the WEDnet platform. And on that link, if you took a time to look at it, you will see there's 22 of us at this particular time, I believe, Jay. that
Yep.
do what Jay and I do. We have these meetings to share with our stakeholders and about the program. We also do, I'll speak for myself, but I will do an individual meeting. I will go visit with a company or with a different organization to talk about the program. The timing of this is very good from the standpoint that we're getting you ready for the next fiscal year. The fiscal year starts July 1 and runs through June 30th. So the training has to start, be completed, and invoice within that time frame. Now, on June 1 is usually when we start the application period for the next fiscal year. But please be aware that June and July are very hectic months for us. So where you may be in the process of starting the application, don't expect to hear from us in terms of where you are because we're still in the cleaning up the end of this year and getting prepared for fiscal 23-24. Well, that being said, as we walk through this process and the chance that most likely your award will not be granted until either late July or sometime in early August. But any training that meets the criteria that starts after July 1, even though you may not necessarily have your award, then it would be eligible for the program. This program, and Jay has thought about a grant. So this is a reimbursement program. So you're going to have to do the training, complete the training, and pay for the training before seeking processing for the reimbursement of that training. And the program is really geared for all sizes of companies in Pennsylvania. We actually, this is probably more information than you need, but we are actually charged with trying to get small, medium, and large companies, and the state monitors that information. And you'll notice when you go through this application process, there's some information that asks for your state representative, and because we are a line item, we're part of DCED, Department of Community and Economic Development, and PA First is the line item that we're funded. So every year we have to go through the budget process, and it's been over 20 years that the program's been in existence, and it has been funded at different levels. Obviously, during the pandemic, it was a very, very challenging period of time, and we were not awarded as much in terms of funding because the state needed to allocate funds elsewhere. But the program has had success, and it has survived different administrations 20 years in a row. So it's both Democratic and Republican administrations have found this program very useful. So what Jay and I do is we'll walk you through this process, the training plan, and to be quite candid, the more familiar you are with the program, the easier it is for us to kind of work through. And that's why we're both in the sales capacity. My primary role at the college is to work with companies that outsource training. Today, Jay and I both have our state hats on, where we're representing the WEDNET program. Jay also indicated in terms of you do partner, third party, and in-house. So they monitor the amount of training that we do as a partner. So if you select the Community College of Philadelphia, and it may not be Jay, it could be the credit side or one of his team that's doing the training for you, they measure how much we do of our allocation. And again, my state hat here, they don't want us to be those salespeople that say, hey, I have some money for you, but you have to do the training with us. Okay, so you select the training provider, the vendor, to do that training. And we would be remiss if we didn't say, hey, please consider us as a potential vendor to do that training for you. Because that is our primary roles at our institutions, is to generate additional revenue for our institutions. But again, you have that opportunity. We don't provide you a list of vendors. That's up to you. We don't have a pre-approved list. It's your responsibility to identify the training provider to deliver the training. Now, one of the critical components of this process is something called reasonable cost. To be quite candid, we have had situations where people are aware of the program and they see what the maximum amount of the award is, and they kind of do some things that aren't totally above board in terms of matching the amount that the training would cost to the award. But if it's not a reasonable cost, the state can reject it. Even it may be on your training plan. You can put it on your training plan. And the training plan is a working document. And when Jay and I take a look at it, it says this looks reasonable, but if we don't have all the information, it's not a guarantee that it's going to take place. We do our best to try and review this process early on. And if we see a training event that looks kind of out of kilter, we'll work with you in terms of the course description, which is very important when you do the training plan. You really need to identify the skills that are going to be enhanced, pretty much topics and subjects covered, not why the training is needed. And this is a lot of information. So this is just, we're going to share this with you, but as you get closer to the process, you would reach out to someone on Jay's team or my team. If you have questions, we can drill down in terms of what should be in each one of the columns on the training plan.
And a quick advice would be when you're looking at trainers, look locally.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're a lot cheaper than even when you go regionally. Because
that's
if you go locally, you can save a lot of money.
And that's a very good point. And I think this will be covered in the company guidelines, but we'll share with you. So this is a reimbursement for training. So if the so if it's a 4-hour training and it's $1,000 for the training, but if you have someone come from out of town to teach it, their travel costs, their hotel, their lodging, none of that is covered. Only the 4 hours of instruction. For those of you in the manufacturing space, if you acquire a piece of equipment and there's training associated with that, as long as you get an itemized invoice or a separate invoice identifying the name of the training and how much that training was for, then you can use that to submit for reimbursement. We cannot process and approve reimbursement for something that just says training. It has to be able to be linked to a specific training event.
And also, every training should be at least 30 minutes.
Correct. Oh, and when we talk about training, you could use online webinars as training, in-person training, or some type of hybrid training. You could have your people go to a conference. Now, the registration cost is reimbursable. You have to identify what courses are being taken there, but the travel to that location for the class and the lodging associated with that is not reimbursable. So once again, the cost of the actual training, the instruction is reimbursable. Another key point, we identified the 3 areas: the partner, third party, or in-house. If you are a mega company that's 500 employees and larger, you are not eligible for the in-house program. We believe that those type of organizations have resources that so the short of it is you're just not eligible to participate in that component. But if you are much smaller than that and you have a person on your staff that is going to be teaching others on your staff, that is fine. Now, again, there's certain documentation as the invoice details that Jay talked about. So when you do in-house training, let's say it's a 4-hour class, the amount that's reimbursable is the hourly rate of that employee teaching. Let's say it's $50 an hour and it's a 4-hour class. The maximum reimbursable amount is $200. And there's additional documentation that needs to be provided for us to reimburse you, such as a redacted W-2 or pay statement. One of the other things we want to make sure you are aware of is when you're working with us and this information is provided, please do not share an email or any social security numbers. There's a process of uploading and putting the roster in place where you would put the social security number of your employee in, but then it's going to be created. About 2 years ago, we enhanced our security to create a unique identifier. So every time that employee goes in for training and you put their social security number, it will hash to a 4-digit unique identifier, which is all J and I see. So I know people will get concerned about security, And I think also in our company guidelines and some other documentation on the website, we talk about the security of the program. And you have to make sure you are comfortable and understanding those rules and regulations of the program to be eligible to participate and to seek reimbursement.
And
Go ahead, Jay.
if you're working with a consultant, we cannot talk to a consultant.
Yeah.
We have to talk to somebody that works for the company.
Right. Now, you can have them engage and sit in with you, but that's a very good point, Jay. So having access to, everyone has their own personal password and security. You should not share your information. So as you get into the system, you should not share that information. And we will talk generally to a consultant about the program because they may help you in terms of identifying the topics and the course descriptions. We have no problem. I even had some consultants come to a presentation I made the other day talking about the program because they have clients that may be interested in the program where the consultant is not eligible to participate in the program. Their companies may be, and those companies are the ones that have to do the application. So that is a very good point by Jay. The other thing too is that this is a training, and the state gets very tricky. And I don't know if you've run into this, Jay, in terms of using words like coaching, but
Yeah.
but you have to. It's a skill enhancing training.
Exactly.
So you have to be very careful with some of the wording.
The wording, yeah.
Exactly, because and once it gets into the system, it's
It's
there.
there.
And so we try to be upfront with you in terms of I counsel against using even coaching as a terminology versus training. So the other things, so once you go through this process, as you're seeking out someone to do the training, it's really going to be good for you to understand the invoicing process. So when you go to a vendor, you need to make sure that they understand when they invoice you, what information needs to be on that invoice so it can be used. Otherwise, it's going to get rejected. And
Yep.
I always say this, if you're paying someone to do training, then you should have the ability, or you should be very comfortable saying, hey, your invoice must have this information on that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we've had some pushback. People will get an invoice, a standard invoice, and if it's not have enough details, they'll say, well, my vendors won't change it. I said, well, to be quite
Then,
candid,
yeah.
I'm in the sales business and the client is right. We need to do everything we can
To make them happy.
Exactly. I'm going to stop there. That we gave you a lot of information. Jay and I can go on into minutia here, but I think it's probably appropriate that if you took the opportunity to look over the website, you may have some specific questions that we can address at this time.
Right. Yes, thank you guys. Look, every question I came up with, you guys answered it like right away. So this is just a lot of information. And
Yes.
those of you guys that did not receive the guidelines for WEDnet prior to getting on this webinar today, please make sure either way, Meg is going to blast it out to you at the end, but I wanted to make sure you had it prior to, just so you could be a little bit more prepared for some of these questions.
And on that note, and I won't speak for Jay, so as you go through that, our contact information is on the site. So if you click on one of us, please, and sometimes people are more comfortable doing a one-on-one discussion versus a group discussion, understand that. So take a look at it. My email is roverton, first initial last name, @ccac.edu. And my office number is 412-788-7536. So those of you in the western part of the state, if this is something that you eventually want to have a more detailed one-on-one conversation, please reach out to me and we will follow up accordingly.
Yeah, it's better to do a one-on-one because we can look at your company, we can look at your training plan, and then we can advise you, based on what you want to do and what your company is doing. In fact, what I do is most of the time when a company is doing some training or after the training, when they get the invoice, I'll tell them, let me take a look at the invoice before you upload it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I can take a look at it and I can say, okay, well, the wording is not fine here, or something is missing here. If I send this the way it is, it's going to come back.
Right.
So,
And that's another point. So we're working the state, there's certain information, and you'll see this website, but Jay and I are your buffers between the state. We're charged with working these things out. But as we indicated, once it gets put in the system, though, Big Brother is watching. They can see it, and they'll know if something's wrong. They're very diligent in this process.
Yeah.
But part of our role is to head things off as soon as possible. And we have other jobs, and this is just to be quite honest, we miss things. And they will get sent back. It's somewhat frustrating, but the cleaner we do up front, the smoother the process is in terms of getting you reimbursed.
Yeah. And as far as paying your trainers, most times people say, okay, well, I don't have money to pay up front. That you can arrange with whoever is doing the training, your training provider. If we know that it's a qualified training, you're going to get reimbursed. And reimbursement doesn't take very long these days, because if you get it in by Friday, they'll cut a check the following Friday if everything goes well.
I think Jay has a much smoother system in mind, because the state cuts us a check, then we have to turn around and cut our check. So give us give us 2 to 3 weeks. But he's right. So at the end of, if like today is what? Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday, yeah.
Right. So things that get approved this week will be, and we will get reimbursed next week. And then by the time it goes through our system, within the next week or two after that, you should get reimbursed. And I think that's important, because I do have some smaller companies, to be quite candid, and they said, hey, let me take a step back. So if you do training and you have a training budget already, you really should look into this program, because what it will do is leverage and stretch that training budget that you have. If let's say you have a $5,000 training budget, if we are successful in getting you a $5,000 award, in essence, yes, you're going to pay $5,000, or it could be $1,000, or 5 different situations, but you will get that money back. So there's going to be a gap between when you actually pay the money out and get it back. But if you already have budget of $5,000 in your annual budget, then you're going to be able to do at a minimum 5,000, and then if you do that, then you have another, 5,000 that you had already budgeted. You can do maybe $10,000 worth of training, and it's only going to cost the company 5,000. Or if, in fact, and sometimes later in the year, what happens is that companies either don't use all the money that we initially awarded them, or the state gets additional funds. We can add to your award. If you have 10,000 on your training plan, but we only initially gave you 5,000, but if you complete that full amount, we can come back later and say, hey, if you have all your receipts and invoices, we can get you additional funds. So the key thing is looking at that training plan and working through that. Now, some small companies that may not necessarily have a training budget, so I will work with them, and they say, hey, okay, we understand we'll have to pay for this training up front, but they will only do training to the amount they will get a WEDnet award.
What for?
Yeah.
I think you clarified what I was about to ask. So if if one of the applicants chooses to use the WEDnet training, suggested training, then would you guys be more flexible in not having to pay up front and just waiting for the reimbursement?
Well, you see, that's between the company and the training provider.
Right.
I was saying is WEDnet, it was a training provider. Is that a situation?
That's between the company that's wants to do the training and the training provider.
See, WEDnet's, go ahead, Jay.
WEDnet is the one that's going to give the money out.
Right.
To the company. Now,
so the training provider would be either Community College of Philadelphia or CCAC.
Yes.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. If your
I
partner.
heard you said about your list, a referral, like you guys have a list of, you don't refer it out, but you have training that you guys do.
Exactly.
Your own organization.
Correct.
So
yes.
Correct.
If your partner is doing the training, most times you don't have to worry about paying up front.
Okay,
If it's a qualified, they know they're going to get paid. Well, if let's say if CCP is doing the training,
Mhm.
we know we're going to get paid because we're going to do the invoicing. If I will make sure as soon as the training is finished, we're going to submit our invoice.
Yeah, but the
If you
key thing
work-
there is that you have to see, although, yeah, you have to submit the invoice because it won't process until you receive and upload the invoice.
Invoice, exactly, yeah.
Correct.
If you are working with a third party,
Mm-hmm.
now you're going to have to negotiate that. You can tell them if you've been approved for a certain amount of money, you can say, look, I've been approved for a certain amount of money. I don't have money to pay you up front, but if you do the training, as soon as I get the reimbursement check or the check from WEDnet, I'll pay you. Because we don't send the check to the training provider.
Right.
We'll send it to you, to the company, and then you have to pay the training provider. So the training provider is your responsibility.
Yeah. The cleanest way to be quite, and like Jay said, you can negotiate with them, but in our guidelines, it has to be invoiced and paid. Technically, if you read through the guidelines, you need to be invoiced and you need to pay the invoice before seeking reimbursement.
Yeah.
And I think that's either on page 10 or 11 of the company guidelines that goes through the invoicing process.
I'm looking, I don't see any questions. I did put the contact information for Jay and Reggie in this chat. When I stumbled across this resource, it was actually me looking for resources for a specific industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you guys went over it, but if you wanted to just kind of, I know it's available as far as the type of the companies that are ineligible for the services. So if you're on this call, please make sure that you look over that eligible and ineligible outline so that you have an idea of the type of businesses that fit the criteria to receive these services.
Yeah.
And I definitely encourage you guys, if you do not fit the criteria, please share it with this information with somebody who does, because this is just an amazing resource that I definitely wish more folks knew about, and I don't want to assume that they all do. So I will be directing people to this info session that will be recorded and available on our website. Now, this may be a simple question, but let me ask you to Reggie and Jay. Does these fundings extend to nonprofit or is it only for-profit organization?
So in general, nonprofits except for hospitals.
Hospitals, healthcare.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. So if you look on the company guidelines, page 5 of the company guidelines gives you a good list of what's eligible, what industries are eligible and not eligible. And the healthcare space is a tricky one.
Yeah.
But there, if it will tell you that it's nonprofits except for healthcare, except for hospitals.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Certain health, it actually says certain healthcare and banking training providers.
Banking, it's only
The
headquarters
headquarters.
employees.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I was asking because a lot of nonprofits reach out to us for resources sometimes, and I'm like, we service for-profits, but I don't want to exclude any information like this.
Yeah, and like Jay and I, our institutions, educational institutions, we're not eligible to participate. We can do the training, but we're not eligible to have our people train under WEDnet.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. So why is it that you guys don't service restaurants in the hospitality industry? Is there a specific, I know a lot of them that need a lot of training. So that's why I was like, or if you know another resource that does service them, please let me know.
I don't know if Reggie can answer that, but that's a question that I don't have an answer to. That's something that comes from the state.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these guidelines and they were softened a little about 3-4 years ago to allow nursing homes. And even with that, nursing homes have a lot of turnover and they don't pay a very high rate. So we're talking about, this is a taxpayer funded program.
Okay.
So it's a matter of investment. So the turnover rate, I think in the hospitality space and
very high.
And the wage is very low.
Right.
So we have limited funds in this program. So to be quite candid, I think one of the things that criteria is that we want to invest in growth businesses with sustainable with sustainable wages.
Okay. I
And I
definitely
saw
appreciate
something in
that.
the chat about
Yeah.
lawn
Those
care.
suggestions. Okay. Yeah.
If it's retail in nature, it's not going to be eligible for the program. This is primarily for industrial and
If
the
it's
industrial
industrial,
space.
yeah.
Yes.
You talking about in regards to landscaping and lawn care?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you're
that
doing
was one of the,
landscaping
yeah, it
for,
came in the chat.
Yeah.
if you do landscaping for companies, yeah.
So you're saying it's not eligible. I'm looking on the list. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
So if you're doing companies, you know, that
Right.
could go
I
through.
don't see landscaping specifically, but if it's retail in nature,
Yeah, if it's
the chances are not
it's not gonna
eligible.
fly, yeah.
But if it's industrial and
Industrial,
commercial,
commercial, yeah.
then you should.
Okay.
And the other thing too is if Jay and I don't know offhand, if there's a website and we have a good description, I'll go to the state and say, prior to getting everyone's moving too far along, I'll take your description, I'll take your link to your website, and I'll share with
Director,
Harrisburg and say, hey, look, I'm not clear on this. Can you verify if I understand correctly? I tell my clients and prospects, this is an open book test. We're not
yeah.
trying to trick you. The more
Mhm.
information you share with us, and we have a pretty good turnaround. Jay and I are out and about, so we may not be in the office or able to take your email right away, but within a couple of days or on vacation, we will get your request or your information and share it and get back to you in a timely manner. And that's why now is an ideal time. So if we're
Yeah.
starting to prepare for the next fiscal year, way before the June 1st application period opens up, if we have
Yeah.
any questions like this in terms of would we be eligible, just shoot us a note or your respective community college in the central part of the state and say, hey, I'm thinking about this program. Am I eligible? I'd like to know that before I go down this rabbit hole.
I appreciate you mentioning that, Reggie. And it looks like Jovis Nelson is saying he does commercials. So Jovis, I suggest you shoot Reggie an email, just following up on this webinar and asking him to check to see if you qualify.
And where are you located?
Funding.
What part of the state?
Where are you located? I believe he's in PA, but where at? Well, he should be if he's on this call.
Well, Philadelphia, then
Philadelphia.
if it's Philadelphia, you're going to go to J.
Yeah.
Call Jay.
Yeah.
So is this specifically for your employees? Felicia is asking, is this specifically for your employees? One of you fellas want to answer that?
What do you mean by
What do you
that?
mean
Is
specifically?
it
Yeah.
training, Felicia? Are you referring to the funding? Because I think I asked this before, that is for you and your employees, the training and the funding.
Yes, it's for employees. Yeah.
Yes. But if you own your company, you're
You can get trained
eligible.
too.
Yeah, if you meet the criteria, if you're a full-time benefited employee of your company, even
Yeah.
as an owner,
As an
you're
owner.
eligible. So it works this way. So the amount that you can get is based on the employees, your incumbent workers taking the training. But the company, not your employees, the company has to do the application for the program.
For the program, yeah.
So you have to apply for your employees, Felicia, if that's
Yes.
answering your question. And you, as the owner of the company, you are eligible to receive funding for training as well.
As
Correct.
well,
As
yes.
long as you fit those criteria that were
Yep.
mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I
Yes.
can walk you through,
Mhm.
you know, when you're ready.
Yeah, call Jay. He said he's gonna walk you right through it. So anybody wants to talk offline individually about your specific industry
Mhm.
and your
Yeah.
business model and the type of amount of employees you have, please reach out to these fellas. The upcoming, I believe this is the end of a quarter, but if we want to just reiterate when the quarter deadlines are, June through July, if
It's
you want to go over.
July 1st is when you can start training.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the last day of training should be June 30th. Now, you don't get reimbursed for partial training.
Okay.
Let's say if you have a 4-part training and you do 3 parts by the end
Yeah.
of June,
Mhm.
you don't get reimbursed for 3 parts.
Right.
Everything has to be completed.
Right. So
You have to schedule in that time period.
no.
No.
So the key thing is there is no deadline as long as funds are available. We're still,
Yeah.
if you can still apply for this year,
For this
but
year, yeah.
but like I only have a small amount of money, but like I said, some money may be freed up by other companies not using it. So as long as there's money available, so Jay and I have some internal, we have to hit some numbers, like at the end of September, the end of August and end of September, the amount of money that we've received, we have to have that place.
Yeah.
But we can hold some of that back. But as long as there's money still coming in, sometimes the state gets additional money for like something else wasn't used, and DCED gets some more money, and they'll come back and say, hey, could you use some more money? And looking at our training plan, we'll say, yes, we can use some more money. We could either use that for new applications or for applicants that we underfunded initially.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are
So
times
just to
when,
make sure-
you allocate money to a company
Mm-hmm.
and watching them, if they're not using as much as
Mm-hmm.
you think they should be using, you can take it away from them after
Yes.
February.
Yep.
You
After
can take away
February
from
1st.
them and
Yep.
give it to somebody else. And I do that most of the time. I'll take money from somebody else and give it to somebody that has done the training and needs reimbursement.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll let them know that you will get reimbursed if funds are available
Mm-hmm.
when you train at a later date.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go to my next question, let me just make sure that we're good on this. The application is all year round, and the funding depends on the availability of funding, but you must schedule and actually perform the training between June and the end of July.
July 1st.
First
July
and June
1st.
30th.
Any training that you do starting July 1st
Hmm,
till the end of June 30th,
30th, okay.
you can get
July
reimbursed.
1st to
You
June
can
30th.
you can apply on June 30th and train on June 30th. If there's money, you get reimbursed. Yeah, I mean the application you can apply anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, I
Yeah,
got you.
as long as
Okay.
there's funds available,
Mm-hmm.
and you train within that time period, you'll get reimbursed.
Okay, perfect. All right, so you guys have any questions about that, please make sure you follow up, or just making sure that I'm good, just in case I need some funding. It's like, no. So I just want to make sure I get these questions answered, so I'll be better at explaining and
Mhm.
pointing them into your direction, basically. So
Okay.
we do have another question from Brian Wright. Hello, would training also pertain to certifications in the transportation industry?
Yes.
Can you be, yes. So if it's skill enhancing,
Mhm.
and it leads to a certification, yes.
So,
So the logistics and transportation that's an industry that's
eligible.
that's on the
Logistics
eligible
and
list.
transportation,
Yes.
all right,
Yeah.
see that.
And if you have, if there's a cost to sit for the certification, because we encourage certification,
Mhm.
that's also
Reimbursable.
eligible. Yep.
Oh,
Up to
really?
$2,000. Yeah.
What
So, and
kind of
that's,
certification? Do you guys cover MBE certification? Do they usually come to you when they're already certified with EMSDC
Well,
or WEBank?
well, that
What's-
is that skill enhancing? What is that?
What's
I mean,
MBE?
yeah, it's not MBE. I
Well,
don't think,
Well, we could talk about that a little bit offline. That's just like, I'm already working with certified members of my organization, but I do talk to a lot of folks that's not certified. So I was wondering if that was a criteria or if that's something that you guys cover, just in case someone comes to me with that question.
I guess
Well-
it depends on the industry and the profession.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, or DBE certification.
DBE is what?
The disadvantaged business enterprises, and that's she's asking that because a lot of transportation like PennDOT, Amtrak, SEPTA, the airport, they all ask for you to be DBE certified. So I'm going to answer. Well, I'm going to let Reggie answer it on the WEDnet side, but I do want to let you guys know that I do have another Secure the Bag coming up where I'll be looking to introduce you guys to the Pennsylvania Supportive Services with ProRank Business Solutions. They pretty much assist with DBE certification and helping you do business with PennDOT. So they pay for certification, and they also help you with navigating those supply diversity systems with the on the transportation side. So we could talk more about that, and I'll be happy to share their information with you if you're interested in a little bit more supportive services in regards to transportation.
So I'd have to look into it because my understanding is that if that doesn't sound like it's skill enhancing, that's just a certification that you need to
yeah.
participate. So that
If-
is not something that WEDNET covers.
Most times,
So let me
most
get
time-
you guys more information because I don't want to interrupt. I'm sorry, Reggie.
Okay.
But our organization, we certify them, but we also have a lot of, like a part of your certification is that you get access to our development services. So we do a lot of business development that they do have access to through our certification. So maybe that's something we could talk about when you talk to the state to kind of give me a firm yes or no on that. So I'll be able to refer people properly when they're reaching out directly to us for this type of resource. Just to be clear on it.
certification can be a little bit tricky
Right.
because most times you have to do a training and then get certified. So if you do the training, if it's a qualified training, then they'll pay for the certification also.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
And that may be different for DBE. So I will ask my contact there if they have a training associated with their certification. We do not. We just have a process where you have to complete paperwork.
Yeah.
That's not skill enhancing. That's not training to enable them to improve their job.
Yeah. I
Well,
have
okay, I'm sorry. I want to be clear because it is a lot of times with this, like when you said industry, depending on the industry, that made a little bit more sense because depending on the industry, like construction,
yeah.
they cannot do business if they're not MBE certified with some of these corporations.
Well,
So
construction,
if they have a
yes.
contract in front of them, they will not be able to perform it unless they have this certification. So it is a correlation for them to be able to do business.
Construction, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that because I have some construction companies where you have road inspectors or whatever you call them. You know, they have to be certified, you know, for some things. Yeah. I have some architectural firms where the architects have to be, you know, certified.
Yeah, especially if they have like equipment or, you know, certain things, like you said, they need the certification. So we'll talk a little bit about, if y'all have that question specifically, you could go directly to Reggie or Jay, but I'm definitely on here learning. I got my little pad. I'm up here learning some things myself. So I appreciate the time that we're spending on this conversation today. Let me look and make sure that I'm not missing anything. I appreciate you guys engaging with us, Brian, Felicia, and Jovis. We definitely appreciate the questions and the feedback. I'm just going to scroll up just to make sure we're not missing anything. Guys have all the contact information. We're going to send you this follow-up. And I don't have any more questions, but did you guys have anything else you want to add before we close out today? I think we got to the meat and the bones of this.
Yeah, again, go through the website and engage us. We're not afraid of meeting with folks and talking and working through with the program. As Aaliyah indicated, that this is a resource that's been available for a number of years. And I think a lot of small companies, we, as much to our chagrin, we haven't done as good a job we'd like to think we have done to make people aware of the program. But word of mouth and having good partners like your organization is important because at this time, as we go, part of our charge to be one of the things each year we have to let the state know what our plans are and what outreach we've done. So this is a nice check on our box for Jay and I to do that. You know, we've met with your organization and we met with the workforce investment boards and other organizations that have members and stakeholders to make them aware of it. And some of folks will be frustrated because they may not be eligible. But you know, please use us as a resource to try and so you can be a better service provider to your members.
And again, things do change.
Yes.
You might not qualify now,
Right.
but maybe next fiscal year, you know, you probably qualify because they're changing the rules and regulations, you know, almost every year. And again, if you're a one-person company, you know, please take advantage of that. You should qualify. I
Yeah,
mean,
I've
just
done some training for a single person
for a
also.
single person,
Yep.
yeah. So if you're starting out a business, you
Mhm.
know, it's just you know, try to get whatever training you think you can get.
Yeah.
And use
Up
the
to
resources available to
$2,000,
you,
yeah.
up to $2,000, yeah.
And Jay, Vincent, the new fiscal year guidelines, they usually come out in what, June or
July,
July? Okay.
July, yeah.
yeah.
I'll look out for that information, just to see if anything changed and if you
Mhm.
could try to keep us posted. I will definitely, because, well, I wasn't gonna do this, but I'm gonna have these resource information at the Royal Conference. I may do a table to share some of this information because we just want to make sure that enough people are at least aware about
Program.
a number of resources and not just this one that we
Mhm.
are trying to make sure we bring to the forefront. So we appreciate you guys coming today. We have the Western PA and we have the Philadelphia area on the call, just so we could make sure that we have, you guys have the correct contact, depending on where your business is located. So feel free to reach out. If you are outside of these areas, I'll be happy to kind of connect you to find out who your point person is. So I want to thank everyone for joining. Look out for the follow-up material. Thank you, Jay and Vincent, for your time again, and Tristina for being on the call. And look forward to connecting with you guys. Reach out, utilize us. We're here to service you, and just tell me better ways to advocate on your behalf. So thank you for joining today.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.